deny till their cows come home that they're actual racists. But I hear them. They are. They really are, I guess, unconsciously racist. How would you describe it?
But I don't know. I think that if you genuinely don't think that you are racist, then you're not, because that's not in your mind. It's not what's motivating.
But do you think
now,
that's
there could
right?
be people.
See, on that
I think
point,
maybe what you're talking.
I would slightly pick you up on that, because I know people who may not think they're racist, but they definitely say stuff that is racist. They're judging people negatively from their skin color.
Well, I think you could have someone who is racist and denies it.
Matt Walsh went on Piers Morgan uncensored, and not only did Matt Walsh destroy the woke cult and the woke side of things, but also Piers Morgan started pressing Matt Walsh a little bit, and things got a bit heated, a bit tense here for a second, where Matt Walsh had to just put Piers Morgan in his place. Let's get into this clip here, where Matt Walsh and Piers Morgan go at it on Piers Morgan's own show, Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Money and less power for them.
I also think this whole thing of microaggressions that you talk about in the film is really interesting, because so many people are aware that they've got to be more careful perhaps in the way they talk and so on and so on. And they try really hard. I'm talking about older generation people perhaps who never had to give this much thought. And they're really keen to try and say the right thing. And these microaggressions, where are you from? Where were you born? Do you speak good English? This was the University of Minnesota. These are all deemed microaggressions. You're Asian, how come you're not good at maths? University of Edinburgh. I don't see colour. National Education Association, because apparently denies a person's of colour's racial, ethnic experiences. I mean, it's all just garbage. Unless it's intended in a derogatory way or a sneering manner, none of those things are aggressive. They're just questions people would ask. I mean, the whole royal family row, for example, about the potential skin colour of Prince Harry's son, Archie, was apparently based around one of the members of the royal family saying, given Meghan Markle's parents, one's white, one's black, what skin colour could the baby be? That's not a microaggression. It's not an aggression of any kind. Unless the question was delivered, I hope it's not going to be too dark. That's a microaggression. That's racism. But to simply say, by the way, given the parents are different colours, what colour might the baby be? What's wrong with that? Why wouldn't every family in that position ask that question?
Right. I mean, and a lot of this stuff, asking someone where they're from, as you pointed out, is just that's just showing an interest in someone, that's being polite.
Right.
But part of this is that it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. They set it up so it's a lose-lose, because with many of these so-called microaggressions, well, if you do the thing, you're racist, you're microaggressive. But if you don't do it, you could also be racist, because, if you don't recognize that someone's from a different culture and you don't acknowledge it at all, well, now you've otherized them, you've excluded them, you've made them feel like they don't exist or something. You haven't affirmed their existence. You haven't taken an interest in their culture. That could also be racist. Really, it just depends on that person. It's like, how do they perceive it? Do they want you to ask, or do they not want you to ask? And you're supposed to know that going in.
Right.
And if you do the wrong thing, then it's automatically racist, apparently.
One of the criticisms you've had is this whole concept of unconscious bias and so on, that actually a lot of people who are genuinely racist don't think they're racist. I mean, that is a real phenomenon, right? I know people who say racist stuff who would deny till their cows come home that they're actual racists, but I hear them. They are. They really are, I guess, unconsciously racist. How would you describe it?
But I don't know. I think that if you genuinely don't think that you are racist, then you're not, because that's not in your mind. It's not what's motivating.
But do you think
now,
that's
there could
right?
be people.
See, on that
I think
point,
maybe what you're talking.
I would slightly pick you up on that, because I know people who may not think they're racist, but they definitely say stuff that is racist. They're judging people negatively from their skin color.
Well, I think you could have someone who is racist and denies it. That certainly can hapen. I mean, there are.
But what Matt Walsh is saying is, if you genuinely don't think you're racist in your brain, then you're not going to think of a person a certain way because of their skin color. Also, I think if that is the definition of racism, what Piers Morgan just said to Matt Walsh there, that there's certain people out there who say that they're not racist, and then they also, think of people a certain way of, because of their skin color. I think if that's the definition of racism that we're using, I think everybody's racist. I think everybody has preconceived notions of every race, and rightfully so, because every race has a different culture, and so they have different tendencies. I hate pretending like this isn't the case. White people do certain things that black people wouldn't do, and then this vice versa. There's always like, if you ever watch somebody parachuting or like snowboarding down a really steep slope or something like that, there are always comments under the tweet and it's saying white people activities and stuff like that. And it's true. You don't see black people doing that stuff very often. You just don't. And then like there's stereotypes that are true about every single race, about every single culture. Why do you think they exist? It's because they're true. Not every single stereotype is true, but a lot of them are true. So like if that is a definition of racism that we're going with, everybody's racist. Everybody's racist then. So I think what Matt Walsh is saying is that if in your heart you don't believe that you are racist, then you're not racist. Like I do agree with Matt Walsh there. Like if you're not caring about race, well then you wouldn't be racist, right? Like you wouldn't be discriminating about based on race, because you're not racist. You're not thinking about race. So how could you discriminate on someone based on the basis of race when you're not even thinking about that in your brain? The problem with what Matt Walsh is saying is that I don't think that exists. I don't think anybody is genuinely never thinking about race. I know a lot of you are going to think and maybe comment in the comments, oh no, but me, I never think about race, dude. I will never discriminate based on race. Yes, you do. Stop lying. Nobody's buying that. Like everybody discriminates based on race, man. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It genuinely doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, it's just normal. That's what we've always done. We're a tribal people. Humans are tribal. And so we can spot different tendencies in different races and different cultures. I don't know why this has to be some like taboo, like evil thing to just recognize the differences between races. I just don't get it.
Are racist people in the world of all colors, of all races, by the way. Anyone can be racist. And certainly some of them will deny that they are. Like that is a thing that happens, sure. But the point is that there's only one authority. There's only one person in the universe who's an authority on what's in your mind. There's only one person who can really speak to that authoritatively, and that is you. And so if you genuinely don't feel any animosity to people based on their race, then you're not racist. You might have you have many other flaws, I'm sure. You might even believe things stereotypically about races, but that's not racist in and of itself. And you're the only one who could speak to that. So if someone tells me they're not racist, then I'll just take them at their word on that. I'm not interested. I can't read their mind, and that's all that we can do. And then I'm just going to go on and live my life. I mean, I think that's the best way to approach most of this.
Do you think America's becoming less racist decade by decade by decade?
I think it was.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
I think we kind of talk about in the movie that, in the 90s, and the 90s was not a racial utopia in the United States. I realize that OJ, race riots, that sort of thing did happen. But I will say that just anecdotally, growing up in the 90s, very, very quite diverse area, going to public school and all that, a lot of different races. It was not a major focus. And I think that we're I do think we're going backwards in a lot of ways, that it's now there's a resentment, there's a suspicion there to a much greater degree. 15, 20 years ago. And again, this is all engineered. I think this is all quite intentional.
The George Floyd murder features in the film, obviously. The reaction to that was extraordinary, unprecedented. Could you see good and bad in that reaction?
Hard to see any good in it. I saw a lot of bad. I mean, I saw whole communities being burned down. I saw innocent people being victimized en masse across the country. I saw just people losing it was hysteria. I mean, what we saw was mass hysteria, and the response to that incident was not even close to reasonable. There's not any kind of reasonable conversation about it from the very beginning, and I don't think anything good came of it. And that in and of itself is not responsible alone for a lot of the racial insanity we see today, because a lot of it was already happening. I mean, BLM existed years prior to that, but it certainly didn't help. I think that's That's for sure.
I want to end by playing the iconic clip from the Martin.
What do you guys think? Do you think that racism is getting better in America? Because I definitely, I mean, look, I think racism still exists. You know, when I went to college, I had 3 black roommates, and I definitely saw, you know, some racist things that I wouldn't have seen unless they pointed it out. And I was like, all right, yeah, that dude was probably, you know, a little bit racist. But like, I think racism is definitely getting better. And I think the leftist and the woke ideology is not helping it at all. I think naturally racism was just going away. And then the woke ideology where it's forcing down everyone's throats that since you are white, you are racist. I think that's making people more racist, because it's like, okay, if no matter how hard I try to not be racist, I am just racist because I'm white, well, then I might as well just be racist. You know, like I think the woke ideology is definitely pushing more people to be more radical and more racist. But naturally, I think the human race, and especially America, we're moving towards like just not being racist, because it really is just like, why would you hate people based on the color of their skin? It doesn't make sense. But at the same time, like, if the definition of racist is not being negative towards certain people because of the color of their skin, that if the Piers Morgan definition of racism is you only can spot trends and you discriminate based on race in terms of like trends and things like that, then I think everybody's racist. And I think it's dumb for you to not be racist at that point, because there definitely are trends, and there's certain things that, you know, certain cultures do that others don't. And pretending like that doesn't exist is just dumb. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage in society. Anyway, let me know in the comments you guys think about this whole Matt Walsh versus Piers Morgan episode here. Matt Walsh had to check Piers Morgan a few times there with some of the statements that he was making. But let me know in the comments you guys think. Who do you think came out on top here, Matt Walsh or Piers Morgan, in this debate?